Hello again, Geekbeard here, and welcome to the third episode for today. Once again, pondering my diaries, my writings, and trying to extract the deep philosophical meaning, both from them and from the world itself. Let's get into it. Well, the God thing seems to have died down. He's still there, I suppose, but I only call upon him to deal with large things that cause emotional distress, which there aren't many of in the day-to-day, unless I start trying to create them. Slept pretty poorly, also ate some dirt yesterday, lol, but that's another story. I tend to have a lot of worrying when I'm awake at night, perhaps taking after Mum. I was thinking a lot about her and how tragic my life is generally and how I needed to engage in more social activity just to meet a wider range of people. Oh well, we've got Law of One and Seth Speaks to read anytime you like. Not exactly inspiring. Anyone else read any of the Seth Speaks books? I read, I think, The Eternal Validity of the Soul, which is possibly the second or first one, and I'm currently in the middle of The Nature of Personal Reality, I think it's called, which is sort of the third book, maybe. He's somewhat interesting, somewhat readable, but I can't read huge chunks of it. It is pretty repetitious. It sort of puts all the emphasis on you as the healer and solver of all of your problems, which is difficult. And it gets repetitive. Enjoying my cap plus cake. It's actually a pretty good mud-esque cake, but it really ought to be for $6. Man, I'm running on empty right now. Not sleeping certainly felt like it was taking it out of me when I was lying in bed. Now I'm here. I feel perfectly capable, but it would seem like I'm not exactly. From 230720, quote, "Wow, seriously, I'm almost in tears. So satisfying to be told that the upper ones have emotions, which in us are still nascent, and form our spirituality. So the upper ones are like aliens that are above us, that have more advanced than us. Do they have emotions? Because the truth is, a lot of what we're doing in the world today is based on science, and science is fundamentally unemotional. So as we've advanced in civilization, there's become an ever greater need for unemotional logic. Logic is fundamentally unemotional. Is that trend ever going to sort of turn or change at all? What is the role of emotion, and particularly spirituality, which in some sense is almost like a higher form of emotion, but it's very connected to emotion, I think. So my theory, which I talk about in a previous file, which maybe we'll get to at some point, is pretty much that our spirituality is akin to the emotionality of higher species. They have more sophisticated emotions, just like we have more sophisticated emotions than the Romans or the medieval people would have had, because we've had more education, more growing up. So our emotions are actually more sophisticated. Because emotions aren't, you might say our emotions aren't more sophisticated because they're just biological, but I'm really talking in a more generic, generalized sense, that our emotions are actually more than just the biological part. There's flow on from that, there's interaction, there's social meaning connected to it. So I'm really sort of generalizing the concept of emotion and saying that we react to things in complex, sophisticated ways, in ways that the Romans wouldn't have been able to, but they didn't have education, so maybe they would have if they had. I'll continue. They have upper emotions. Well, it's the end of the quote first. They have upper emotions. They get emotional about things in ways we don't. Yet. On the other hand, this is problematic. There is one side of politics that tends to get emotional these days, and it's not mine. It does feel pretty interesting to acknowledge the value of their emotion, though. In the past, people indeed may have gotten emotional about their nation, for example. We very much see a future in which that returns. Otherwise, how will advanced beings interact and assert ownership? Not quite sure what I mean by some of that, but it's interesting. Damn, this whole emotion stuff is really getting to me. It's almost like some superpower that women have had, and I've been denied my whole life. Embracing much in the way of emotion feels woman-like to me. So, I also just had the thought that why try to maximize emotion and share in it on Facebook or such when that hasn't been my life up to this point? I'm not a big Facebook guy. And I'm way behind others in that respect too. Clearly, some kind of emotion has sustained me on the path I'm on. And whether you choose it or not, you're gonna be an evolution of what you have been up to this point. Just don't try to fight emotion incessantly, perhaps. That sort of contrasts with what we were talking about from yesterday's previous episode's file, where we were embracing emotion and punting it up to God to deal with. I can't help but think that some of the emotion associated with the two-party system is illegitimate, though. Simply partisanship, not truly meaningful in isolation. Break, the emotion that empowers upper civilizations really ought to be a function of civilization. In other words, collective at the very least. The emotion of one person at a given time is just part of a distribution. That distribution should ultimately achieve more than the individual, shouldn't it? Yet, when I think of them interacting with us, I think I'm talking about the upper beings again here, I often imagine individual passion for us playing a significant role. And maybe it does in any civilization. Still does in our civ, I believe. Well, individual emotion is significantly shaped by education and life experience, as well as the emotion of others, so that can be sufficient to elevate it significantly. But for the sake of reliability, I should try to interface with something emotional that is indeed more collective. That kind of sticks in my throat. I seem to have issues with all things collective. I've certainly seen the dark side of it in this civilization. Wink, wink. And things can't be entirely different in whatever kind of collective systems of comparable scale exist out there, can they? Quote from 0717, had some decent viz yesterday, at least I found it good at the time. End quote. Haven't had much viz in the afternoons this week. Frustrating, but I guess it serves no apparent purpose. Anyway, what is viz? Viz is when you get images coming into your mind. I call it viz for short, but it basically means visualization. I often lie down in bed and kind of shut all the doors and close the windows and the blinds and get things as dark as possible, and then close my eyes in bed and just lie there and try to visualize things, which I call meditation. Meditation in bed, in other words. Drop a comment if you're into meditation of any kind, particularly visual meditation, because I think that's, to me, there's some kind of magic going on there, isn't there? Like, where do the images come from that you see in your head, especially the ones that don't make any sense, that aren't related to the normal world? You sometimes just see these crazy beings and crazy shapes and things, which don't seem all that far-fetched, but don't seem to be belonging to this world either. Yeah, drop a comment if you're into that, or if you have any thoughts about it. Well, I do have something of a new philosophy cooking here that can actually significantly contribute, so I have somewhat observed. Break, the eating dirt certainly got my nose running, so that's something, and the back of my brain felt fuzzy afterwards, although it's hard to definitively connect the two. Break, how do you unseal the CL? CL stands for cloaca here, but I was a bit hesitant to put that word down on a work computer, because it's a bit... I mean, it's just a cloaca, it's not that big of a deal. Damn, that was a trip. It felt so gloriously childish. A encrypt, unencrypt immediately, the ultimate. A encrypt stands for anime encrypt, because anime is like the ultimate form of encryption, right? Being one of the most childish forms of high art there is in the universe. Yeah, anime is both sort of childish and adult at the same time, which is something very kind of devious, very powerful, I think. If only I knew what I was talking about, if only aliens knew what I was talking about, all my insanity would be worth it. Saw a guy that I had thought made a facial signal to me last Wednesday. He did another one, hand over the ear. Probably means that we're being listened to, if anything. But frankly, probably he just likes touching his face. I wish it did mean something more. It's pathetic that that is the way I want to connect with people. On the positive side, it does mean I want to connect with people, just in a rather autistic way, you could say. I want to skip all the talking about random shite I don't care about and get straight to what? Being a soldier? Or a spy? An agent of some kind. What exactly humans don't yet have the words to describe. An interstellar spiritual agent. That's what I want to be. Why is talking so shit to me? I get bored, maybe, and yet I listen to hours of gabble on my tablet every evening. The real stress comes from having to say stuff myself. Do I prefer sitting here at work doing nothing? Probably. Even this writing feels like more than nothing. So yeah, I'm not a big talker. I really personally struggle in social situations quite a lot because normal conversation is so pointless. I just try to avoid it because I can hardly ever think of much to say. It's like food. I like food. Matter of fact, I had some food this morning. It's like, what do you say? I'm not very experienced in small talk and all that kind of stuff. Drop a comment or like or whatever if you've message, whatever. Suggestion video, is that even a thing? If you struggle with social awkwardness like I do, or just borderline autistic like I probably am. But as you can tell, I have no difficulty talking and processing things. I just avoid kind of banal social situations a lot because I don't have much to say about it. I don't have much to say to people, and then awkward silence results. So I'd rather just not talk to people, I suppose. Although I'm trying to get myself to talk to people more. Drop a comment if you relate. God, I wish that first episode actually could have been heard by the highest level of some secret society, just like I imagined at the time. It's pathetic that I'm not even willing to go shopping for custody tarts this afternoon. Well, contrarily, they probably won't be that great, and we could save them for the weekend, which, however, never seems to happen. I don't know about that. You know, one of the deepest things that triggered me before the first episode, the Cassiopean channelings. Heard of those? They're a bit related to the Law of One, but some people they're created by I think a lady called Laura Knight Jadzik or something. Or was it Radzik? They're pretty cool. And one statement in particular convinced me of the depth of evil therein. All channelings contain both good and evil because it's just the way of things. You see, in actuality, according to my then creative envisionings, Sasquatch became the great early gardener of our galaxy. He did not fear the serpent like we do. It was a puny animal to him, easily crushed by his hooves. But in time he befriended it, took it as a pet even, learned to exploit its unique powers. As for Sasquatch himself, his power was drinking. He was known as the Great Drinker. He would drink just about anything, particularly blood. It allowed him to divine the chemical composition of things, their true origins, however distasteful. This did he apply to the 1.5 density beings, engineered mini-humanoids, possibly engineered by the dark reptilians or their ilk. Only Sasquatch was fully able to appreciate that pain. You see, he was the master of fabrication/unfabrication. He could split things apart with his magic, unweave their very threads, as if they were a mere fabric. A deeply emotional being, he did not pursue such things except when there were huge things at stake, as there were, faced as we were with the 1.5 density/dimensional beings. Using the art of fabrication, Sasquatch could project masses of writhing vines, but only with the help of his serpent pals could these crystallize to achieve personal invisibility. Now I remember. The great evil was conceived of as the bird race. It was ruled over by flightless birds like dodos, who had originally become the lawyers and then priests. In fact, the reptilian race is mostly hailed from something very special, a Chi galaxy. There, gravity worked differently, being mostly unidirectional, and it was possible for birds to traverse the many platforms of this world. Thus they became vastly more powerful than the other races. That is why the Sons of the Serpent left, learning to traverse the cosmos on radioactive double pyramids. And they have been pursued by the bird race ever since. Of particular concern was the law created by the bird race that souls had natural compatibility within galactic regions, but when they incarnated across these boundaries, could start to cause problems. The core of the Chi was one such boundary. The policy then was that souls should be returned to wherever they originated from, and there should be segregation between them, a process that was spiritually highly questionable. The Sons of the Serpent, of course, arrived on Earth in ancient times, yet much younger than the time of Sasquatch's great reign. The implication being, of course, that we descend from Sasquatch to some degree. They terraformed the planet, heating it up significantly, burning away the ancient, cold, misty forests that had dominated, as described by Credo Mutwa, for example. They supposedly fed on our emotions. Anyway, they were relegated to the underworld by the Nephilim, etc., according to multiple religious traditions, I believe. According to my current beliefs, they have partnered with the Vikings and others to wage war in Andromeda. After mixing with earth snakes, which are apparently among the deadliest and most unique known. For example, the mulga, or king brown snake, has some unique power, theoretically, some unique connection. to the mysterious Muon. He was the one that was lord of old Mu, after all, the land that was unaware of its impending doom at the hands of the Egyptians / Anunnaki / etc. That was this land, after all, before its heart was pierced by an obelisk. The secret to their name is obvious. CHITAURI equals CHITAURI equals Chi in Taurus. And I'm back. Sorry, that was just a quick dinner break. Let's continue. The secret to their name is obvious. CHITAURI equals CHITAURI equals Chi in Taurus. The Chi galaxy. Definitely not an X galaxy. Lol. Have you guys ever heard of this stuff? Did you know that galaxies can form in an X shape? In other words, a Chi shape. Because they kind of have curled corners. Chi is the Greek letter X. But isn't that mysterious? CHITAURI is spelt exactly CHITAURI. It really means Chi in Taurus. Taurus constellation, of course. But it's not talking about a star in Taurus constellation. CHITAURI is not a star. It's a Chi galaxy. These are very rare galaxies and very unique and special, and that's where the sons of the serpent, the CHITAURI, CHITAURI, originate from. It's in the name. But then this could all be fevered imagination. Maybe they aren't the good guys anymore. Maybe they have bred into a predatory fighter race, as depicted in the first Avengers movie. Who knows? Someone. Just not me, sadly. I desperately wanted them to be not evil, though, just more of a primordial force. I wonder what is the nature of emotion to a reptilian. I mean, they would be warm-blooded, right? Like the dinosaurs. I don't know if you realize this, but apparently current mainstream opinion is that the dinosaurs were actually warm-blooded. So they were very different from the reptiles of today. In particular, people believe that they couldn't have grown quite as quickly as they were able to grow if they were cold-blooded. I mean, they would be warm-blooded, right, like the dinosaurs. We had a theory about that. They were, in fact, cold-blooded, and even feared mythologically by DRACO reptilians that had descended from dinosaurs. But can they still have emotion? I had rationalized it that cold blood led to a heart that was kind of a sink compared to ours that were sources, and the two would interact, much like galaxies, supposedly. Though the sink element of galaxies is less certain. They only seem to come in source varieties. Actually, I think the Chi was meant to be a sink. Damn, that was some pretty epic stuff. Don't think I've written it down previously. And now it's out there. Should I be worried? I mean, it would actually be cool to connect with comparable reptilian fanciers. Very cool. Maybe I've declared my orientation by this more strongly than ever before. Guess we'll find out. Or not, if this is just disappearing into a memory hole. That was not easy to remember. Seems as if there are quite a few holes That's in contrast to how I used to feel. Holes go a long way towards undermining the feeling of epicness and truthfulness. Guess you can elide over all those all too easily when you're in too much of an elevated mind state. So what else to say in this remaining 18 min? I envisioned 3 movies about the CHITAURI. One in Africa, one in India, the third in Australia. They would gradually reveal the depths of evil in Earth's history against the backdrop of the return of the Anunnaki on Nibiru. The two-faced one finally being destroyed by the power of silver, of which our galaxy has a preponderance, whereas Andromeda is supposed to have a preponderance of gold, which is why so many reptilians, DRACO in particular, are attracted to their cause. Silver combined with superheated water ejected from a point double pyramid lake above, reactor below. In the final scene, the CHITAURI master is questioned about the power of gold by a young DRACO and declares, "We no longer require gold. We have evolved." Then raises his hands, adorned with electrically functional jewelry, forming an X, the symbol of evolution. This begins the process of the double apex collapsing and allowing the water to pour in. The loyalties of DRACO in this epic war are easily ascertained. One of the characters, probably a black guy, simply states, "DRACO is playing all the games, here and in Andromeda. The game of fives, where one lives and each other dies." But DRACO proved to be partly good in the end. We've talked previously about the nature of Andromedan evil and its connection to the Anunnaki. Oh, and Oumuamua is part of a weapons range-finding system. First you send the sounder, then you send the tracer, and third, the eraser. But there is hope. What are the loyalties of the Cube planet, as featured in the Travis Scott Fortnite concert? They showed Nibiru/Nemesis system. Then they showed this epic planet. I believe it's run by reptilians, good ones. They will protect us, if possible, from the might of the eraser, from the powers that plan our destruction. Why? I don't know. Hopefully they know. Hopefully I can have profitable connection with them somehow, sometime. Well, that was epic. I don't really want to try and offer too much interpretation because there's so many different angles and directions you could go with all of that stuff, and it kind of stands on its own. But if you relate or don't relate or have any alternative interpretations, drop a comment and we'll discuss. Okay, I think that's the end for today. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to likes, comments, subscribe, whatever you're into. Email me at geekbeard3000@gmail.com if you want a personal discussion. A more personal one, anyway. I make no promises. Geekbeard signing out. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.